You have been chosen to lead this initiative, to oversee our first and last line of defense.
XCOM and Valkyria Chronicles, unit placement is everything.
We urge you to keep that in mind as you proceed.
Fail to place units strategically and you could lose everything.
The enemy's spread out through the desert region. Squad 7,
get ready to deploy.
Move out!
Good luck, Commander.
In XCOM, players are tasked with moving units strategically from an isometric, turn-based perspective, using a basic point-and-click or controller-based tile-style input system to command troops, and are typically trying to place their troops in strategically advantageous positions that both provide optimal cover as possible, while also giving them advantageous firing points from which to defend positions, but also giving lines of fire to clearly target enemies. Both the player and the alien enemies command their units by taking turns back and forth, with both the player and the alien's phases consisting of issuing movement, attack, and defense commands within each turn's different phases. During each turn, each of the player's individual units typically get either a single movement point and an attack point, allowing them to commit to one movement and one attack per turn, or units can also sacrifice their attack phase in order to gain an additional extra movement, allowing them to move further in the environment on their turn. For instance, the typical assault-style soldier unit can typically move around 8 to 10 tiles worth of spaces, but can increase this amount to move almost double that, if not slightly less, than that normal amount by sacrificing their attack ability for that phase to move twice in one turn. This can be advantageous and can help give players the drop on enemy units, but can also place them in danger if the player moves them too far, too fast, away from the protective cover fire of their allies. Player units will often vocalize and confirm these commands after being issued orders in order to provide confirmation feedback for the player. Players can also choose to place their units into Overwatch mode, opting to move either once or not at all, but providing cover fire for both themselves and their allies. When in Overwatch, should the enemies move within sight during the enemy movement phase, any player units in Overwatch mode will automatically open fire on the enemy. As unit placement and cover are key to this game's combat, accuracy and chance to hit are entirely dependent on these factors, which makes moving while exposed an extremely risky maneuver. Valkyria Chronicles shares many of XCOM's overall gameplay, turn, and combat phases, but whereas in XCOM the player's units each have their own individual movement points, in Valkyria Chronicles, during each turn, each side has a single pool of movement points that are shared between all units on their respective side, and the player can divvy them up as they see fit. This provides a different kind of strategy, where moving certain units multiple times may be more advantageous than moving all of the units available during each single turn, and vice versa. Also, in Valkyria Chronicles, players directly control their units with a mouse and keyboard or an analog controller during their individual unit's movement phase, and must manually aim and fire their weapons. The firing accuracy of this manual firing mechanic, while still somewhat numerically stat-based like in XCOM, is less chance-based and slightly more focused on the player's actual crosshair placement in regards to damage feedback and the results of the player's actions. Similar to XCOM, players' units will often vocalize their orders upon beginning an action, and here, when a unit's turn has ended, the game will provide confirmation feedback in the form of a unit reloading their assigned firearm.